water. Whether it's falling from the sky like today or whether it's surging from the ground, at Vindolanda we're almost always knee-deep in it. Water was one of the most fundamental resources of the ancient times, and the people who first inhabited Vindolanda in 85 AD knew it very well. Ever since the first settlement at Vindolanda, a lot of attention was paid to water collection, like in the water tank behind me, water management, like in the drains we're going to follow on site, and water sources, like in the wells that dot the extramural settlement and the fort. So today we're going to follow the journey that water makes at Vindolanda from the source all the way to the brook that runs at the bottom of the hill, where all the waste would have been flushed in ancient times. The water's journey at Vindolanda begins here in one of the many spring-fed tanks which dot the site. Depending on what time of the year you join us, you might still see it filling up and gently overflowing into the aqueduct that runs down the hill following the incline of the ground. So we're going to continue on this journey and follow this aqueduct down the hill and towards our first destination, the 3rd century bathhouse. Stone-lined aqueducts like this one weren't the only way in which water was transported down the hill. In earlier forts constructed in turf and timber water pipes would have been the main way in which clean water was transported where it was needed. Water pipes were made of alder and tapered at both ends in order to slot into square oak blocks. You can see all of this on display in our museum. By whatever means the water was carried down the hill, keeping a bathhouse like this functioning would have been thirsty work. Water was used in pretty much all of the rooms in this bathhouse, but mainly in the calidarium, tepidarium and frigidarium. Water was around in the form of steam running through the walls and keeping the surrounding environments hot or lukewarm, and was pooled in the frigidarium as a cold plunge area. So people could come in the bathhouse and go through the various rooms and enjoy different degrees of heat or cold, and finally sit down in the cold plunge pool to relax. Eventually, the water would need to be flushed. When that happened, the plug was pulled in the corner of the frigidarium, but the water didn't go to waste. It was used to flush the latrine and ejected on the other side to continue its journey down the hill. Drains were not only used to flush bathhouses or the wastewater out of private residences like the commanding officer house. They were also used in commercial premises. And here we are inside a butcher shop where a drain would have kept things smelling nice. The drain behind me there would have collected all the icky bits like guts and things that people didn't want exactly in their pie, and would have flushed them out of a hole in the wall and joined the main drain on the main road of the extramural settlement. That is going to be the one that we follow, and it's going to lead us into the fort and to our next stop in this journey with water at Vindolanda. While wastewater is being flushed away from the butcher shop, right on cue, over here, it started raining and this beautiful water tank has once again started filling up. This particular water tank was originally constructed with eminently functional purposes. The stone at the entrance would have originally been propped up, creating a smaller feeder tank. In that feeder tank, the horses could have come to water without polluting the whole source. Later on in time, the stone was flattened and an entrance was created so that people could walk directly into the water. We think, due to the position of this water tank between two churches, that this might even have been used as a baptismal font. So you see, we've moved from icky, disgusting water flushing away all the impurities into the river to clean, purifying, almost sacred water. Now that we've cleansed our souls, let's go and have a look at the place in which the Romans would have cleaned their belongings. So the building we are in is located in the southeastern quadrant of the last stone fort, but predates it by about 60 years. It dates, in fact, to the Antonine period. It is in an area that is currently being consolidated, so this is a bit of a sneak peek before you can actually access the building and have a look around. The structure has been a bit tricky to interpret, and that's because it has certain similarities with a latrine and other things that are not compatible with that use. The similarities with the latrine are mostly with the latrine at the fort at Bearsden in Scotland. And one of these similarities is that this structure is actually built inside the rampart, so it's missing one of its walls. You can see that there are channels, but there isn't a channel on my left-hand side, and that's because this wall would have not been here. This would have been inside the rampart of the fort. The building stands quite tall. It's 11 courses of really nice sandstone masonry, and is characterized by a massive intake of water. The water comes up from the top of the hill and flows down towards the Chainley Burn. The water inlet over there would have fed water to the channels that run along 2 of the 4 walls of the structure. The channels are quite small and not deep enough for them to be latrine channels. Other latrines, both here at Vindolanda and, for example, at Housestead, have got much deeper channels, presumably to avoid really unpleasant splashbacks as you did your business. Next door, we've got a water inlet that leads onto a very small water tank. This is one of the features of this building that has pointed us in the direction more of a wash house and less of a latrine. It would have been perfect to wash your belongings, and water would have constantly trickled in. Finally, behind my shoulders is a massive inlet of water, and it was so powerful and collected such water force that about 60 years later, the 4th course of Gauls, which built the last fort of Vindolanda, erected a latrine only a few meters from here and exploited the very same flushing power. We've now almost reached the end of the water journey here at Vindolanda. Either side of me would have been 2 rows of seats for a 3rd century latrine. As you can see here, the channels are a lot deeper than they were in the last building we filmed in. And they're also full of a green substance. At this point, it's useful to dispel a myth about wiping your bottom in Roman times. There is this legend going around about sticks and sponges. However, sponges were very rare material here in the north of England, and it's most likely that moss would have been used. We know this because of the environmental evidence in earlier layers of the site. From the same layers, we've also recovered the best preserved wooden toilet seat in all of the empire. And here at the latrine drain is where the journey of Vindolanda's water ends. The water leaves the fort and dives down the hill to join the Chainley Burn. It is a nice occasion to reflect upon the role that water had in the past and that water still has today at Vindolanda. It was the giver of life for men and animals. It was the purifier of souls for the Christian religion, and it also contributes greatly to the astounding preservation of our artifacts today.